If you're going to do development in the Brisbane City Council region, it's really important to understand what each of the residential zones are used for. So what do council envision are going into those particular zones? To start, we have the low density residential zone. So the low density residential zone is purely for single detached housing with some commercial uses, but generally limited to things such as childcare or doctors, things that are used on a day-to-day basis by the community. Then you have things like the character zone. So the character zone is actually split into two. So there's CR1 and CR2. CR1 is your character. That's even worse for development than the low density residential zone. So you're stuck with 450 metre square sites generally. And again, single detached housing. It's all about preserving the character of the Queenslanders on large lots. Then you have your CR2, which is your character infill zone. And on these types of sites, you can go down to a minimum lot size of 300 front lots and 450 for rear lots. And you're still meant to be maintaining the Queenslanders, but there's a bit more development opportunity. You might even be able to get a duplex. But again, it's not going to be townhouses or apartments envisioned for those particular localities. And then you have your LMR zone. So the LMR is your low medium density residential zones, and that's split into three different categories again: LMR2, LMR2 to 3, LMR3. And so the 2, 2 to 3 and 3 basically stand for the scale of development that's envisioned in that area. 3 being 3 stories, 2 being 2 stories, 2 to 3 meaning there's going to be a mix. In those zones, it's sort of a bit of a free choice. It depends on your locality of your site. It depends on what's happening around your site. But you can do anything from subdivision up to apartment complexes, townhouses. There's maybe some more commercial opportunities, but generally you're probably going to be limited to residential uses. And then after that, you have your medium density and your high density residential zones. They kind of speak for themselves. Medium density residential is generally 5 stories or less. But again, if you have a really small site, you're not going to get 5 stories, and you might be able to get 3 or 2 stories. It really depends on the site and the locality. High density residential, obviously you're starting to get into your large towers. Then you have your emerging community zones. So these are residential areas, perhaps, but really council have identified them as having some environmental issues. So a lot of these emerging community map sites actually have waterway corridors, excessive flooding, bushfire hazard. They might have sugar glider habitat going through them. And so it means that council haven't really explored what can and can't be done on that site in great detail. Generally, you would treat them as a low density residential site though. So you're looking at, one, dealing with all the environmental constraints, and then secondly, you'd be looking at sort of your 400 metre square sites, single detached housing. That's what they're looking for there.